Welcome back to a chapter a day. Happy Friday. We have made it through another week. Thanksgiving was yesterday. That means today was Black Friday for everybody. Whoever decided to go out, stay in, shop, don't shop, whatever it might be. Hey, thank God we made it safely through another week. So we are moving on to 1 Kings chapter 6. Yesterday we read about Solomon's organization of putting in place people to deliver him timber for the sanctuary, and also hiring servants and people who would go over to Lebanon to help cut down the fir trees, because he made an agreement with King Hiram of Tyre, which I believe is in Lebanon, because they mentioned Lebanon several times. So now they have an agreement. He's going to help him to cut them down, and they're going to ship it, and he's going to be paying him with the oil. So it's like a bartering system. So he's not getting it for free. It's no handout. Okay, so we're going to read today about all of the magnificent work that's going to be going, or the materials that are going to be going into the sanctuary for God. No cost spared. Chapter 6. And it came to pass in the 480th year, after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziph, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of the Lord. So we are looking at almost 500 years since the deliverance of the children from Egypt. God is now sanctioning a place for the ark to sit permanently. And the house which King Solomon built for the Lord, the length thereof was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 20 cubits, and the height thereof 30 cubits. Now I am not quite sure what a cubit is. I think they said the cubit is the height of a man. Not quite sure, but who knows? I'm not quite sure. And the porch before the temple of the house, 20 cubits was the length thereof, according to the breadth of the house, and 10 cubits was the breadth thereof before the house. Now, for those of you who have not done math through an English portal, breadth just means the width. Here in America, they'd say the width. Verse 4. And the house he made windows, and for the house he made windows of narrow lights. And against the wall of the house he built chambers round about, against the walls of the house round about, both of the temple and of the oracle, and he made chambers round about. The nethermost chamber was 5 cubits broad, and the middle was 6 cubits broad, and the third was 7 cubits broad. For without, in the wall of the house, he made narrowed rests round about, that the beam should not be fastened in the walls of the house. Now remember, when the children of Israel were wanting to build an altar to God, he specifically told them, don't put stone or any type of hammer, not stone, but don't put hammer or chisel or axe to the stone. So I think this is what Solomon is honoring here. He doesn't want to touch the walls, the stone part of the sanctuary, with any type of tools. He wants to keep the stones as whole as possible. Because right here in verse 7 it says, and the house when it was in building was built of stone, made ready before it was brought thither, so that there was neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was in building. So that was still being held to. This was supposed to be a holy place, just like God instructed them, and they're building the altar. Do not put any type of tools to it. It's the same process here. So it's no noise while they're building God's sanctuary. Everything has been prepared outside, and then when it gets there, it's ready to put together. It's almost like prefabrication, what we call prefabrication today. He was way ahead of us. Okay, verse 8. The door for the middle chamber was in the right side of the house, and they went up winding stairs into the middle chamber, and out of the middle into the third. So he built the house and finished it, and covered the house with beams and boards of cedar. And then he built chambers against all the house, 5 cubits high, and they rested on the house with timber of cedar. And the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, concerning this house which thou art building, if thou wilt walk in my statutes and execute my judgments, and keep all my commandments to walk in them, then will I perform my word with thee, which I spake unto David thy father. And I will dwell among the children of Israel, and will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and finished it. And he built the walls of the house within with boards of cedar, both the floor of the house and the walls of the ceiling. And he covered them on the inside with wood, and covered the floor of the house with planks of fir. So this house is going to be magnificent. Some of us today have wood flooring from original times, like maybe 50 or 100 years ago, and we treasure those floors because those were the original stuff, the good stuff, like we say today, not these man-made prefab things that they use in our houses today. Verse 16, and he built 20 cubits on the sides of the house, both the floor and the walls with boards of cedar. He even built them for it within, even for the oracle, even for the most holy place. And the house that is the temple before it was 40 cubits long. And the cedar of the house within was carved with knops and open flowers. All was cedar. There was no stone seen. So the walls, or whatever stone they used, was overlaid, and then they had the wood. It must have been, I mean, if you have seen polished wood or any beautiful piece of natural wood carved into anything, it is one of the most beautiful sights, honestly, for me personally. Verse 19, and the oracle he prepared in the house within, to set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. And the oracle in the forepart was 20 cubits in length, and 20 cubits in breadth, and 20 cubits in the height thereof, and he overlaid it with pure gold. And so covered the altar, which was of cedar. So the oracle is the area where they will be placing the ark, I believe. I don't know if it's that altar that they sort of built and then placed the ark at the top, but it is covered with gold. Verse 21. So Solomon overlaid the house within with pure gold, and he made a partition by the chains of gold before the oracle, and he overlaid it with gold. And the whole house he overlaid with gold until he had finished all the house. Also the whole altar that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold. And within the oracle he made 2 cherubims of olive trees, each 10 cubits high. And 5 cubits was the one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other wing of the cherub. From the uttermost part of the one wing unto the uttermost part of the other were 10 cubits. And the other cherub was 10 cubits. Both the cherubims were of one measure and one size. Remember, the ark was like a box, and right above it there were 2 angels with their heads bowed, and their wings were touching over like this. That's what they're referring to. Remember, this sanctuary, or this temple, that ark, was shown to Moses. The pattern was shown to Moses, and he had people fashion it, because it was fashioned over that what is in heaven, where God resides. The covering cherubs, the covering angels, that is what they fashioned it over. It was made over the pattern of what's already in heaven. Okay, verse 26. The height of the one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was it of the other cherub. And he set the cherubims within the inner house, and they stretched forth the wings of the cherubims, so that the wing of the one touched the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. And their wings touched one another in the midst of the house. So these things have been made really, really big. Okay, so that this side is touching the wall, this side is touching the wall, and then the 2 tips of the wings meet in the middle. I'm sure that place was something to... The Israelites back then were so proud of Solomon's temple, and I could just imagine its beauty. I could just imagine. Okay, verse 28, and he overlaid the cherubims with gold, And he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims, and palm trees and open flowers within and without. And the floor of the house he overlaid with gold within and without. And for the entering of the oracle he made doors of olive tree. The lintel and side posts were a fifth part of the wall. The 2 doors also were of olive tree. And he carved upon them carvings of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold, and spread gold upon the cherubims and upon the palm trees. Lots of gold. Verse 33. So also made he for the door of the temple posts of olive tree, a 4th part of the wall. And the 2 doors were of fir tree. The 2 leaves of the one door were folding, and the 2 leaves of the other door were folding. Now, if you have an imagination while you read this, you can just picture in your mind what it may have looked like, okay, according to our understanding. Verse 35. And he carved thereon cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, and covered them with gold fitted upon the carved work. And he built the inner court with 3 rows of hewed stone and a row of cedar beams. In the 4th year was the foundation of the house of the Lord laid, in the month Ziph. And in the 11th year, in the month Bul, which is the 8th month, was the house finished, throughout all the parts thereof. And according to all the fashion of it, so was he 7 years in building it. Oh my goodness. 7 years in building a house for God. That's a long time. But this is for God. The number 7 again, very important number, I think. This is what God requested of Solomon, and this is what he did. He gave Solomon peace so that all Solomon could focus on was building this house for him. 7 years in building. Although they said here, and in the 11th year, in the month Bul, which is the 8th month. I'm not sure if it took 7 years or it said 11. It was 7 years in building. I'm not quite sure. They have 2 different numbers. I'm not quite sure why. But anyway, the house is built. The house for the Lord, that is, was built. How much, and I know people think it's still important to build fancy churches today and these huge cathedrals. That's not where God dwells anymore. God dwells within here. Of course, we have nice buildings to gather in. That's for fellowship, you know, but these large monuments that we want to build for God, that's not necessary anymore. God is not requiring that of us anymore. So, that's it for today. We are finished with chapter 5. Where was it? Chapter 5. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. I'm going back. I'm going forward. It's Friday. So, until our next reading, remember, keep listening, because that's how faith comes, by hearing God's word. Until our next reading, take care.